And then, okay, guys, so we're going to start. I just wanted everybody, so Claire is obviously our presidential diamond on this team. And I'm so excited because I feel like when we first started, we had like a really close-knit group of everybody. And I just felt like Claire was so good about reaching out to each person. And like, she just like makes you feel like such a good friend. Like when you meet her in person, you're like, how are we not best friends forever? Like, she is such a good person. So Claire, do you just like want to introduce yourself and kind of share more if people haven't gotten to know you yet?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm Claire, like she just said, and I have been in the business now for just over 2 years. And I am a presidential diamond. So when I first started the business, I was a stay-at-home mom, four little kids. My husband worked long hours, and I just really wanted to make extra money from home because I wanted to be able to give him the freedom to be home more. And so that was kind of my focus when I got started. And I started promoting pretty quickly because, and I always tell people this, I promoted quickly not because of luck or a good network or anything like that. I promoted quickly because I felt like I didn't have a choice. And I want you guys to catch that. I know sometimes when we get on Zooms and people share their stories, it's easy to kind of glaze over while they're telling their story. But that is probably one of the biggest tips that I'll give you tonight, is that I promoted quickly because I didn't give myself a choice. Because I just made the decision that this is what I needed so desperately for my family. And I think what a lot of people maybe don't know is that we were broke. We were really, really struggling when I started this business. And so like it was this, or we would actually like lose our house and have to relocate. So it was a really big, I had a really big why. So anyways, I got started and I just learned everything I could. And I kind of want to get back to basics with my story because like I said, it's easy to kind of glaze over and just run right through to, and then I went double and then I went triple and then I went presidential. I'm like, that's all well and good. But like in the beginning, I remember my first week in the business, I got on every single phone call, every single corporate call. I was on the show me the money call, Sunday night calls. I was on every single, back then we used to do Periscope, but for now it would be Zooms. I was on, every training I could get my hands on. I was sitting and reading through absolutely everything in the team page, other people's questions, all of the answers, reading through things in eSuite, watching all of the videos in eSuite, YouTubing tons of videos and trainings from top leaders. I was just so hungry to learn because I saw that there were women just like me who had brought their husbands home and who were making these incredible incomes. And I looked at all of them and I thought, none of these women are all that different from me. Most of them are all stay-at-home moms. They all have similar stories. So if they can do it, why not me? And then something that I used to talk about more is taking that why not me and turning into that's going to be me. So I stopped saying why not me and I started saying it will be me. And there was a huge shift that happened in my business when I said that. And again, I made that decision early on that I was going to go to the top of this company and I was going to be one of those women with her story shared everywhere, with her face in the Rap Mag, which hasn't happened yet, but it's on my goals board. I was going to be a top income earner. I knew that. It was just a matter of timing. And so I just busted my butt to make it happen. And like I said, I was so hungry for knowledge on every single training, through the team pages all the time. So anyways, I went executive in 15 days. And then I went Ruby in 25, or executive in 14 days, Ruby in 25. And then the next month I went Emerald and my husband went Ruby. And then I went Diamond in 4 months, Double Diamond in 7, Triple Diamond in 8, and then Presidential in 20, I think, months. And that was kind of, I don't know, like when you hear that story, that was a lot of hard work, a lot of pushing with my team, a lot of hard work to get there. But It Works has 100% changed my family's life, 100%. And, we went from struggling and, looking at losing our house and looking at having to relocate to being able to relocate to our dream location where we've always wanted to live. My husband retired 5 months into the business and I just don't even know where we would be without this business. We love it so much.
I love that. I remember like each promotion that you've had. Like when you went, well, I missed your executive promotion. When you went Ruby, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do that one day. Like you were just like so inspiring from the beginning. And I love how you said it's like a lot of hard work. So like, has your days changed from when you like first started to now? Like what's the daily life of Claire pretty much?
I feel kind of dumb talking about this because I am like not a routine person, but it's probably good because I know we have all different types of personalities in the business, but I am like the opposite of routine. I'm a very go with the flow type of person. So my days all look different. But just to give you a basic idea, yes, it does look different now than it did when I first started the business. When I first started the business, and you guys are gonna like probably freak out when you hear this, but it's the honest to God truth. I worked from the time my eyes open in the morning till the time my eyes shut at night. I literally worked all day. And I know that's not the pretty wrap it up with a bow version of this business that we like to share, but that's just the truth. And like I said, I was desperate. We so desperately needed this income and needed this change in our lives. That I was willing to do whatever. So I worked really, really hard in the beginning. I talked to everybody that I knew, all of my friends, all of my family. I was posting like crazy about it. I annoyed the heck out of some people. But I was on a mission and I had that fire in my belly. And some of it was probably like shooting loose cannons. So I probably wasn't using my time the most wisely because I didn't necessarily know how to yet, but that's part of the process and part of the learning. Now my days are much more relaxed. I work my business in, 1 to 2 hour increments throughout the day. So I do have a lot more freedom now in my day. But when I sit down to work, I do follow a flow. And so I wanted to show this to you guys. You probably can't even see it because it's probably reversed. But basically, this is my daily task list. And so I pull this out every time I sit down at my desk to work. And I just keep, like whiteboard markers on my desk and I just cross them off as I go. And then I erase it, for the next time I'm going to sit down. And so, number one, I always do my self-development and I'm always reading, a book on business. Or sometimes I do like just a spiritual development book if I feel like I personally need that, but most of the time it's something to benefit my business. And then I, make a post on social media, on both Instagram and Facebook. And then I add to my network. Technically, I don't do these in order, you guys. Self-development is always number one, but the rest of them I don't do in order because technically it's better to, add to my network and interact before I make a post. But that's kind of besides the point. I kind of jumble the order all the time because like I said, I'm not a routine person. I'm just not. And so I make a post. I add to my network. And you guys have heard me say this, but I add 20 to 30 on Facebook every day and 100 to 200 on Instagram every day. I follow up with anyone that, like any conversations that dropped off throughout the week. So, potential distributors, potential customers I'm following up with, checking in with them. Reaching out to distributors in my downline and loyal customers. So customers that have auto shipments that are running up, customers that are on my mind, and then distributors who are like maybe in my top 10 that I'm working with. I'll usually pick like 10 people that I'm kind of working with for the month and I'm kind of like, all over them for that month, or just reaching out to any distributor that may have come to mind or that I've seen, on my timeline or in my e-suite. And then I interact, and that's like very intentional. It's like 15 to 20 minutes where I put the timer on, I hop on Facebook, I hop on Instagram, and I'm liking and I'm commenting just very intentionally for that, for that amount of time. On Facebook, I do that on my list. So I do utilize the lists on Facebook and I have a list for potential. So those are all people who are on my friends list who are not currently involved with It Works, or who are not already a customer or distributor of mine. I put them all in that list. And then I interact with that list very intentionally. And then inbox zero is a really important one for me. And it's so hard for me to stay on top of because I do get so many messages and texts throughout the day. So I usually try to, before I stand up from my desk, get my inbox to zero and make sure I respond to everything. So that's kind of my daily flow. But what I will say too is that this business has now given me the freedom to where, like you guys heard me say, I worked sun up to sundown in the beginning of my business. But now that, because of that hard work that I put in the beginning, I'm now at a place where I'm able to work my business in those 1 hour increments throughout my day, in between having fun with my family, going on spontaneous day dates with my husband, you know, all of that freedom that we now have because of this business. And I love, Kayla Gilbert said it in a training, but I absolutely love it. She said, in network marketing, like when you first come in, you're working for a tiny little paycheck that feels like you feel like you're worth so much more than whatever that paycheck is. But if you continue, that will flip-flop. And you will be shocked at how little work you're putting in for the size of the paycheck. Now, I still work really hard, and I'm not saying that you get to a point where you don't have to work anymore, but you definitely do get to a point where you are like, oh my gosh, I'm living a dream life and I'm getting an incredible paycheck for it. But it does take that legwork in the beginning. So make sure that you're not skipping that piece.
Just to kind of like bounce off of that, and a lot of people had asked this in the thing, and I kind of like mentioned it to you, but what is it like to have like no excuses? Like, I think we're all very connected with you guys and Brian's and his treatment, and then I just think even in the beginning, like you have 4 kids, and I mean, you're a mom, you're stay at home, like you have to clean the house and cook meals and everything. Just how do you give yourself like no excuses? Like how do you hold yourself accountable? And on top of that,
I mean, I've heard Katie say this too, and it's something that I've actually said for years. It's actually funny. I remember somebody asked me a long time ago, like when my kids were really small, because I had 3 in 3 years, and then I had 4 under 5. And I remember another mom asking me, like, how do you find time to do your makeup? I never find time to do my makeup. And I remember I just said to her, I was like, well, you have time for what you make time for. So if you're like, think about your day. Like there was probably 15 minutes where you were scrolling Facebook that you could have done your makeup. So that like, it's just what you make time for. And I know Katie says the same thing, but that's still true. You have time for what you make time for. And if you say to yourself, I don't have time for this business, I want you to sit down one day and write down throughout the day, like keep a notebook on your kitchen counter or at work or wherever you spend most of your time, and jot down some of the things that you spent time doing throughout the day. Chances are you'll find that you spent 15 minutes reading, you know, articles on Cosmo, you know, or something like that, you know, or like flipping through what the Kardashians, you know, like transformation and did they get plastic surgery? Like there's so many things that we spend all this time on that we're not even realizing. And so that's just the beginning of the no excuses, is you have time for what you make time for. But with no excuses, I think the most important things are to take quitting off the table. And I say this all the time, also like in application to marriage, you just take quitting your relationship off the table, and it makes it so that never comes into your mind. Cammie said, if you give yourself a plan B, you're always going to take it. It's only a matter of time. And that's the truth. Like even I'm on day 4 of doing the keto diet, and I just haven't given myself the option to stop. And so when I see, like last night we were in the store and I saw peach rings, and I like love peach rings. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then I was like, no, like I don't want peach rings. You know, like you just got to shut your mind. You have to learn to become a master of your own mind, and you can't be ruled by your own mind and by your own weak will. There's actually a verse in the Bible where Paul says, I beat my body into submission, I make it my slave. And it's the same with our business, with the way we eat, with our workouts or whatever. Your body is your slave. You can tell it what to do. Your body doesn't just go reach for, you know, a time waster. So make sure that you're ruling your own mind, you're ruling your own body, and you're making your own decisions. Something that people have asked me a lot, like throughout this journey with Brian, is how are you so strong during this process? Which, number one, it's always my faith and it's always the Lord. But at the end of the day too, I feel like you just move forward. That's the key piece. You just have to move forward because life isn't stopping around you. You know what I mean? And so I know that every single person coming to this business comes with some sort of baggage, some sort of difficulty, some sort of hardship. For me, it was being a stay-at-home mom of 4 little kids with a husband who worked tons of hours and was hardly ever home, and money was very tight. that was hard. And I could have pulled excuses from that. And I could have said, well, I don't have the time. Because by the way, also, like most people don't know this about me, I was actually homeschooling when I first started the business also. So I was homeschooling with young kids and my husband working all the time. And so I think you just need to turn those excuses into your fuel. And if you don't have time for it now, then work for a lifestyle where you're going to have time. I have so much time now, you guys, so much time. And I have so much help with my kids because my husband is home full time. And that's what this business has created for us. And so don't for a second cheat yourself into thinking that this business isn't working for you because you're just so busy. Because guess what? If that's your mindset, then you're always going to be that busy and you're always going to struggle that much unless you put your foot down and say, no, I'm making the decision that everything changes today and it's not going to go back from this point forward. And then hold yourself to it. Hold yourself accountable. For me, I had a face-to-face conversation with my husband's boss. It was pretty ballsy, but literally we were at a company like potluck or picnic or something. And I walked right up to his boss and I was like, hey, how's it going? And he was like, I just saw, that you started your new business. Congratulations. I wish you all the best of luck. And I said, thank you. I'm going to retire Brian with it. And he was like, okay. And I was like, you think I'm joking, but I'm serious. I'm going to work him out of a job. And he was like, great. I'd love to see you do that. But then of course he was absolutely shocked when I did it, and Brian's resignation. But, do things, make bold moves, hold yourself accountable, go for it with both feet in. And every single morning, remind yourself why you started this and why you're going to continue going. And here's the thing too, I just want to say something to those who have been in this business for several years or months and you're not there yet. You can start anytime. I don't care if you are a Ruby that maybe has lost rank a few times, if you're an Emerald that's maybe lost rank down to executive, or if you've been in the business and, people have seen you posting about it forever and people are asking you why you're not successful with it, just decide to wake up tomorrow morning as though you're a brand new distributor and just get that fire in your belly and work for it and dig deep, find that why, do exactly what I just said I did in the beginning. Training videos all the time, all of the corporate calls, reading everything in eSuite, like just get that fire again. Even as a presidential diamond, I need to press the reset button sometimes and do that same thing and just pretend that I'm a new distributor all over again. Send out a bunch of crazy messages and not worry if the wording is totally perfect because you have that fire again.
I love that. I just felt like you gave me like so many notes. But when you were doing this, because right away I felt like you had a clear vision of what you wanted. Like right away you went up, you told Brian's boss, which, oh my gosh, like as a yellow, I'm like that, like makes me shake. I'd be like so red and beating just hearing it even. But like, how did you create like your specific like brand? Like you had the vision from the beginning. Did you come with that from blogging, or did you just realize on trainings because you did that right away, like this is what I need to do, or did you have to alter it a little bit?
It's definitely come with time. But what I will say is, I was enrolled by Alyssa and I did definitely notice that she had a very specific style to the way that she was posting and everything. And so that kind of inspired it all. But I think pretty early on, I just kind of realized that I wanted to put my own personal spin on it. I listened to my friends and family who kind of said that like they would see people join an MLM and suddenly that seemed like that was all that person had going on in their life anymore. Like that was, their entire, like everything. And so I wanted to keep who I am involved, like in the mix. But what I will say is if you go back to my Facebook from July 2015, August 2015, when I first got started, you'll see a lot of posting mistakes. You'll see a lot of, maybe I didn't post the right thing, or things like that. And so I think that, do you think she can't hear us?
I think she might be the only one.
Okay. I'm like, I hope that other people are hearing us. So it's definitely a process too, but it's something that kind of throughout time, I just sort of like evolved into, and just realizing that I wanted to put my heart out there, and I wanted to make sure that I was being genuine in everything that I was doing. And I didn't want to just kind of suddenly become this billboard for It Works. So what I kind of always talk about when I talk about branding is, that you need to pick the 3 things that are most important to you. They don't have to be 3. It can be 4, it can be 5, kind of whatever, but kind of just streamline it. I do 3. What are the 3 things that are most important to you? And for me, it's my faith, it's my marriage, and then it's obviously this business. And those are things that sometimes evolve and change, and you can add, and there's like subcategories and stuff, but those are kind of the 3 main things. For a long time, I've kind of been on a mission to just show the world what a godly, loving, healthy marriage looks like. And then obviously I'm passionate about business and financial freedom and helping others create financial freedom. And then I'm passionate about my relationship with God. That is the most important thing in my entire world. And if anyone, I want everyone who meets me to immediately know that I have, a strong relationship with God. And I feel like if there's only one thing you can take away from being around me, I want you to know about my Lord and my Jesus. And so those are things that are important to me. And each of you will have those things that instantly come to mind. Like that is the thing that is so fiercely important to me. So once you kind of get those things compiled, then that's your brand. That's who you are. That's kind of what you stand for. Those things that are going to pop into somebody's mind right away when they think of you. And then your social media, it becomes pretty fluid to just bring that into your social media. So, starting to talk about your, for me, I post about my faith, I post about my marriage, I post about my business. I will not post anything negative or controversial or anything hateful, because that's not in line with my presence as a follower of Christ. I won't post something derogatory towards my spouse, because that's completely opposite of my mission to show, what a healthy marriage looks like. And I won't, post anything that would compete or take away from my business. So that's basically the idea behind having a brand, is that you're posting things that are consistent. And if you're going to run a business successfully on social media, you have got to be thoughtful about what you're putting out there. You can't just share something anymore just because you think a couple of your friends might like to see it. You have to think about how your entire audience is going to perceive everything you put out there. And so it's just being more thoughtful about what you're saying is basically branding yourself.
I love that, how you said it's like your entire audience, because I think we all get stuck in the mindset that only the same 20 people that like our post are the only ones watching us, when I know that I've had people message me and they've never liked a post, they've never liked anything, but they're still constantly watching you. So that's a good way to look at it, as everybody watching you. I want you to talk about more just a little bit about your team. Like, it's grown so quickly, and how you've kind of implemented layered leadership, if that was something that you learned right away, or how you kind of did that, and then just how you kind of stay connected with everybody in there.
Yeah, I mean, probably the number one way that I kind of managed that as my team started to grow quickly was the other leaders on this team. All of you guys who are diamonds and above have so much to do with why the leadership of this team, goes hopefully well. Because you guys contribute so much. And so I've never looked at this as like a one-woman show, like even Freedom Legacy, even though it's technically my team page, I've never looked at it as a one-woman show. I've never looked at it as like, I'm the boss of this page. From day one, there's been other people who have had the same level, of presence or authority in the pages I have. And that's always going to be important to me. It's actually a very biblical principle to have, multiple minds leading together. And so that will always be important to me. And I think you can instill that very early on in your team by calling it out in people. If you're an executive, you can already be knowing that those, already be evaluating whether or not those 2 people are the people that are going to lead with you to the top. And maybe they're not cut out for that. Maybe they're just not in that for this, but then choose the one who is. And then if you don't have someone on your team right now that you think is leadership material, go out and sign them, because that is hugely important. And I know that I wouldn't have made it to where I am today if I didn't have strong leaders. They're like, might be like a dorky analogy, but they're like my foundation. They're like the pillars of my building. Like if you picture like the Capitol buildings that have like pillars, like those are my top leaders on my team, and I would crumble without them, quite literally. And so that's very, very important. When my team was smaller, and I mentioned this, if anyone was on the boot camp trainings, I mentioned this, but when my team was smaller, I had everyone in my downline's name written in a notebook. And once a month, I would kind of go through and connect with every single person in my downline. And that was powerful for just building those strong connections early on. But as my team grew bigger, that became absolutely impossible. And so that's where kind of the team page comes in, and trying to make that feel as much of a family as we can, even though it's hard. And I'm always looking for input or advice or tips on how you guys think that we can make it even smaller and more of a family. So I'm very welcoming, to like whoever has tips or anything like that. But I think one thing that I wanted to say is just remember that you can't control others. You can't control other people on your team. So, if there are people that are kind of giving you the message that they don't want this, or that they're not fully in this, don't spend a ton of energy chasing them down, because it's just going to suck the life out of you and your business. And so just focus on the ones that are showing you that they want it. And the ones that are showing you that they want it. And if you're watching this Zoom and you're thinking, well, how do I get Claire to notice me? Like, how do I get Claire to see that I really want this? You'll be blowing up my inbox. And not just blowing up my inbox with questions or concerns or complaints. You'll be blowing up my inbox with conversations that you're having with people. You'll be like, oh my gosh, quick, I have a question because I'm in the middle of a conversation. Like, those are the people that I know are truly working, is they're always asking questions from a place of being in conversation or enrolling, or, how can I better my posting, because they already are posting consistently. So they're showing me they're already doing those things, and they just need, maybe like a little bit of coaching to take it to the next level. But I just, at this point in my business, I'm not really able to chase people down unless they're my newly enrolled. I just kind of wait for people to come to me. But if you come to me, especially if you text me, Facebook, it gets kind of cluttered, but especially if you text me, I will get back to you so quickly. I mean, I'm right there for you 100% of the time. But also a note that I wrote down that I wanted to mention when it comes to like connecting with your team, is that confidence in this business and a trust in the process will always result in a good business model. So if you are trusting this company and knowing that it has your best, Mark and Cindy and Pam and Mike, that they have your best interest at heart, and if you know that you're going to be successful with this business, just like I said, when I first started, you guys, I did not know that I would be sitting here 2 years down the road telling you my success story as a presidential diamond. I didn't know that, but I knew that. I knew that this was going to happen. And that's what I want you guys to get, is that mindset shift of, do you know that you're going to be here? Do you know that you're going to make, the income goal that you have in your mind? Do you know that? Because if you know that, and the reason I stress that so much is that because if you know that, and if you get that, and if that clicks in your head, then you will always work that way. I honestly believe that I worked like a presidential diamond when I was a distributor level. I did. I put in the time, the effort, the legwork, the intention in my leadership from day one, because this is where I wanted to be. And so that is something that I just really hope translates tonight through this, is that you've got to switch your mind on, because that confidence will flow through in everything. It'll flow through in your conversations with potentials, and you will attract people to sign with you because that confidence will exude out of you. You're not doubting this business. You're not doubting this company. You're not doubting your own ability to be successful. You're too busy actually working the business to have time for any of those doubts. You don't have time for it. You only have time for signing loyal customers and distributors and being there for your team. That's all you have time for. Sorry, I'm on a tangent.
No, I love that. Like, you are like, I don't know, I just love how like what you think is like truly what you attract. And like, if you're constantly thinking, okay, I'm too busy to give myself self-doubt, you're not going to think that, because pretty much every Zoom I've been on, they say it's when you get inside your own head, when you start having those doubts, that's when you start failing. Well, I don't want to say failing, but when you start taking those steps backwards. So I'm going to kind of just read some of the questions that they have on Facebook. So he asked, she wants to know just more about follow-ups. Who do you follow up with? What to say for products and business? How often? And then do you mix it up? Is it very scripted? How do you do that?
I definitely mix it up. The one time that I kind of maybe fall out of mixing it up is when there's like a huge promotion. Like obviously the $9.99 kits or, you know, a BOGO or something like that. Then a lot of times I'll try to do like the same message just because I'm going to be reaching out to so many people. But I keep follow-ups pretty genuine. I have a planner. And when I first started this business, I did not like planners and I wasn't using a planner. But again, I had a smaller list of potentials and contacts. So I used to just keep a whiteboard in my office. And so this might work for some of you if you have a similar personality type to me, but this was very successful for me in the beginning. And I wish I could go back to doing this, but I just don't have a big enough whiteboard, which is a good thing that I have that many potentials. But I have a whiteboard still in my office, but now it has like my to-do list. But I would just write the names of all of my potentials on my whiteboard. So they were right there in front of my face. So that way it wasn't like to follow up with someone I had forgot. Okay. So like from our first conversation, it wasn't like I forgot about them until I looked at my follow-up list on Friday. They were always right in front of my face. And I feel like that made me a more genuine connector and a more genuine, follow-upper, and like I feel like that helped in my success in signing because I was signing quite a few distributors and customers, you know, early on in my journey. And I really attribute the whiteboard to that because so every single morning I would get up and I would like be on Facebook and I would glance up at my whiteboard and I'd be like, oh yeah, Alicia was interested in the business. I should go to her Facebook and see what's going on. And I would just go to her Facebook, I'd interact a little bit, and then I'd shoot her a message and be like, oh my gosh, your daughter looked so cute this morning, you know, before school. And so I think really successful enrollments come when you're not just connecting with them about the business, because that feels like your service as opposed to a person. So services are valuable, right? And they have their place, and we all go to a service when we need something. So when they're finally ready to really think about the business, yes, they will take the time to go to that service and sign up. But if you've made yourself a person to them and you're having daily conversations with them and you're becoming friends and you're building that rapport, then it is naturally going to come up so much more. And you're going to end up to where you don't even need to have those like very strict, rigid, like sterile follow-up times. It's going to be more like you're going to be following up in so many ways in your conversations because it's going to come up. Like they're going to, you know, make a comment about something about money being tight. And you can so casually be like, girl, you know, it wouldn't be if you had joined me already. Like, what's going on? You know, and you can throw it out there like so casually, and it's just in a relaxed environment instead of feeling like this like business environment. So that's really like the true sweet spot for following up. And that's not always a possibility. Some people are just going to ignore you no matter how hard you try to be cute and personal. But most people, I just always voice message. And I notice sometimes people just won't listen to my voice message, so I'll shoot them a text, and I'll just be like, did my voice message go through, or am I just like talking out into space? You know, like I'm not sure if that went through, or something cute like that, you know, to get their attention. But I think just making sure that you're continuing to interact with them, I count that. Honestly, that's all a part of the process of following up, is interacting with their social media so that they don't only hear from you when you're in their inbox wanting them to buy something, but that you're actually part of their life. And then, so I don't ever really script, like I said, unless it's like a, you know, a $9.99 sale or something. But even then I jot down a quick script and then I voice message off the script. So I use it as a base, but I always throw personal things in there, just because I know that goes so much further. And in our industry, like as big as MLMs are becoming, like you have to fight for what's going to set you apart, and voice messaging is huge. And I know other companies are starting to voice message and stuff, but it's still so nice. I had a girl from another MLM voice message me the other day, and it just felt so much nicer than getting, you know, the cold messages that we all have kind of been subject to at one time or another.
And then how long do you wait when you like follow up with them? Do you like, if it's been like 2 days, will you be like, oh my gosh, your daughter looks so cute in that outfit? Or will you give it like the full week? Or is it just kind of based on how you're feeling it?
Like this is the worst part, is that just like I told you, I'm not routine. I'm not a creature of habit. I'm also not into formulas. Like I can't give you a formula for how long you should wait to follow up. I really feel, and I've tried to give people other people's formulas in the past and it doesn't feel genuine because I don't follow a formula. I follow up with people when I'm thinking about them. But now the business side of things is that you have to hold yourself accountable to think about them. So put them in a place where you're going to think about them. So I have a list that sits on my desk so that I'm constantly thinking about them. Whereas it used to be the whiteboard on my wall. So just find a really practical way that person is never going to be far from your mind. And then your follow-ups will become just so much more genuine and natural.
Yeah, no, I like that a lot because I think, I don't know, like when we say follow up Friday, it's like, okay, the same people are going to notice you following up every single Friday. And then they're going to be like, oh, am I just like a part of some list, which they are, but you don't ever want them to feel that way. All right, let's see. A lot of people asked about the balancing, which she talked about. What self-development books do you read to help you stay focused? Like, what does your self-development look like for that?
Like, what book am I reading right now, or just what books have I read?
Just like in general, what helps you stay focused? And I'm assuming it's self-development and just growing that mind in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just in general.
Second rule. If you haven't read that book, that is a must read for focus and getting things done and staying on track. It's actually like revolutionized so many areas of my life, including like going to the gym, for example. Because the basic principle, just like as a really quick overview, is that you count backwards, basically trick your brain into use. And so, normally we would think like, oh, I should go to the gym tonight. No, I'll do this instead. Or no, you come up with an excuse really quickly. But if instead you stop yourself and you count 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, okay, I'm going to the gym. And you just make the decision. And basically it's something in our brain, and she explains it in the book, where it kind of tricks our brain into doing it. And that has become huge for me, like with the way that I'm eating, with going to the gym, with my business, with follow-up that you're scared, maybe you're scared to message that person or you're scared to reach out to that person, just counting to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and doing it anyway, and putting yourself out there more. So that book has been very formative for that. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that the audio is free on YouTube. I know she also did a TED Talk on it, and so you can watch that, of course, anytime too. A much shorter way to kind of explain it, which is honestly probably sufficient. Like the book is really long, but it's giving tons of examples, which are all very interesting. But if you just want to get the basic gist, you certainly don't have to read the whole thing. And as far as staying focused on self-development, I think it's really important to put your phone away while you're doing self-development. I know if my phone is there, I'm just going to pick it up. But if I go out and sit by my pool to do my self-development, or a lot of times I'll go sit out in my driveway while my kids ride bikes or something, that I will get so much more done when I do it that way. So just make sure that your self-development isn't getting skipped over or run through or rushed through. I know that we put so much emphasis on income producing activities, but I can't stress enough to you that self-development is the biggest income producing activity you will ever do. Now, of course, it can't be the only thing you ever do, but it's very, very, very important in your business. So don't let that fall by the wayside ever, ever, ever.
Yeah, I think we've definitely learned that self-development. I just think our team is so, like, we definitely stress self-development a lot. And I think you can tell with promotions and everything, who's doing it, and like just the confidence they see in themselves when they do it. The next thing is, how do you expand your market personally?
Yeah, so I add to my network. So just like I kind of briefly touched on in my daily tasks, but I add to my network every single day. So multiple, 10 to 20 on Facebook. I have found that Facebook doesn't like stop me as much from adding friends when I do it from my phone. So I now always add friends from my phone. I add from groups, and I've told you guys this before, I'm sure, but I join groups. I look for groups that not a ton of It Works people are in. So just a tip, like a very real-time tip. Don't add from those keto groups right now, because unfortunately, like the It Works people are like invading all of those groups right now. And so they're just not open at the moment. And I believe that all of those people will come back and be very open to our products in the future. But right now they feel very bombarded by it. So don't join a keto group. But any other, makeup groups, fashion groups, moms groups, dog mom groups, there's blogger groups. There's so many different groups that you can join. And what I do is I kind of sit in a group and work my way through one group at a time, and I add all of the members. And I post in the group, and I make sure that I interact in the group. I comment on things in the group. I like posts in the group. I'm very friendly, very warm in the group. But I do go through and add everybody in the group. And if they message me and say, how do I know you? I just say, oh my gosh, we're in such and such a group together. I love that group so much. And they always come back and be like, oh my gosh, I love it too. And that's that. I don't bring up my business. They're now on my timeline. I'm going to start interacting with them and they'll see my posts. But that is hugely important, is, growing that network and making sure that's constantly increasing. And then of course, following on Instagram. And I do that typically through a local boutique. I just use different boutiques and that's where I add from, but find out where your market hangs out on Instagram. If you're a little bit older, then look for a place where you're going to get older people. Sometimes I think it's best to start with kind of those like-minded people.
No, I like that, because I know some people had trouble with, especially like 100-mile radius. So I think just the groups, because it's truly from all over. And a lot of times, I've just noticed when you click on a boutique and then you start following somebody, if you go to one of their friends, a lot of times they're not from the area. So then you're going to I don't know. I ended up with people in Kansas the other day and I was like, oh, I've never had anybody from Kansas. So I was like, just something new.
Yeah.
When selling a product, what do you make sure you tell them?
What do you mean? About the product?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, it's
sorry. No. I'm just reading the questions.
I know you can't read the mind of whoever wrote it, but
yeah.
About the product, I'm guessing they're saying about the product, or are they asking wording of how to order? I don't know.
I guess if somebody was like, tell me about hair, skin, and nails, what are you going to say?
Oh, sure. Okay. So actually, this is another thing when I first got started. So Brian had worked in retail in the past. He worked at Lowe's. And so he sold flooring and appliances and stuff. And so he had given me a tip of how every single product that he had to sell, he would just memorize 3 to 5 key points about each product. And he was like, the thing is that you don't have to become an expert in every single individual product, but you need to be an expert at a synopsis of each product. And so when I first joined It Works, I took that to mind. And so I actually took out a notebook and I wrote down the name of every single one of our products. And I wrote down 3 main points. And that has really helped me, because when somebody asks me a question about the products, just basically what is it, I can always answer them right away. And I don't have to go copy paste anything or go look anything up. I always am ready with my answer. And I think that helps me be more genuine too. Or when people ask you in person, those 3 main points that you can kind of talk about. So, just an example of that would be if somebody said to me, well, what is the point of ThermoFit? I would say it actually raises your internal, body temperature so that you're burning calories at a quicker rate. And it's got a hot pepper blend in it, which is what raises that, that rate inside of you. You're going to burn more calories. It's going to boost your metabolism. You're going to lose more weight. You're going to get, more bang from your workout, whatever. I just did a terrible job of giving that synopsis. But you know what I mean? I have my couple key points that I know I'm going to tell them that this is their body temperature, that it boosts their metabolism, and that they're going to burn double the calories. Those are the things that I'm going to tell them when they ask me about ThermoFit. Or hair, skin, nails, I have my 3 points that I'm going to talk about. So I think that's really important, to be armed with that information. And then also it keeps you, which I know I just did a bad job, but it keeps you short. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if someone's asking you a question, you're able to answer it succinctly, instead of copying a paragraph off of, Product Coach for them.
Do you ever throw in the price, or do you just let that be a totally different question and see how interested they are when it gets to that?
I usually always wait until they ask, personally.
Okay. Perfect. And then how do you find a DT that want it? How do you keep a DT going? Or that's a different question. Just kidding. So how do you find DTs that really want this, potential distributors?
Here's the thing, like it's a little bit of a crapshoot because I have signed people before that like literally I actually during the $9.99 I signed this girl and I literally like texted everybody and I was like, I just signed my ambassador diamond. Like this girl is gonna go ambassador. I just know it. She's been on my dream team list since the day I started. I've been building a relationship with her for like 2 years with the hope eventually having her join my team. She joined during the $9.99. I had chills the way that she joined because the way that she messaged me and the words that she used and everything, I had absolute chills. And I literally was crying because I was like, this girl is going to change my whole business. And a week later, I offered her a diamond leader position on my team. I basically said, I'm going to work very closely with you to help you go diamond within the next, 6 to 8 months. And she got super quiet and basically messaged me back and said, that's just not me. And then she canceled everything like the next day and came in telling me she was going to run. She was going to be incredible. I certainly thought she was going to be incredible. I was ready to like get a diamond boot camp going for her, give her like work very closely with her. She was not interested. She really wasn't. And so I just kind of learned a lesson from that once again, a lesson I continually learn, that you can't make anybody want this, and you have to wait and see who does. Because some people will join my business and tell me they want it in the beginning and then they disappear, but then they come back better than ever. Some people join and they run right away, but then they fizzle out and they quit. And so you just never know what's going on in somebody's mind, and you can't force anybody because we're all adults. You can't force anybody to do anything. So I've had to become an expert in just sitting back and watching and seeing how people function, seeing how people work. And the people that really show me that they're here for the long haul, like I said, are the ones that are showing up to these Zooms. They're the ones that are texting me. And I see, and I notice, I know who's on, I know who's showing up and who's doing their thing. And those are the people that are going to get, my time, my energy, and my attention. So you really just can't tell, but you can certainly watch what market you're in. So for example, I was in one specific mom's group and I was adding from it. And I was just getting all of this negativity on my timeline and people just talking about being broke and people just talking about, like hating on other people and all this drama. And I just got out of that group because I was like, I don't want to sign any of them, honestly. Like that's just not a good mindset. I'm sure there are some gems in there, but that's just not, obviously not a good place. So pay attention to where you're adding from. There are certainly different, groups of people that are probably going to be more likely to have a positive attitude and have like a can-do-it attitude. But anyway, so pay attention to where you're adding from. Pay attention to the type of posts, the type of, what you're putting out there. Again, that law of attraction, like being what you want to attract. And so, make sure that you are being the type of distributor that you want on your team. So if you want to go sign a high enroller who has a great attitude, then you need to first be a high enroller who has a great attitude, if that makes sense.
No, I think that's perfect. Yeah, I've noticed like with who you interact with and just like a timeline can change so quickly when adding from groups. You really do want to make sure, because I've noticed that I'm just like, wow, I just have like a whole new feed of people, and sometimes it can be a really good thing, sometimes it can be a really bad thing. So I didn't know if you had any other last tips that you want to give out, anything that you wanted to share with us.
I don't think so. I feel like I'm always so long-winded, and I like give me these nice little questions, and I go off on these rabbit trails. But I don't. I think just that I would just really want to make sure that you guys know that this season is very important, and we know that conference season is big for our business. And if you're new, then just so you know, conference season is big for our business. And that's, going to be in early February. But the thing is that you have to be getting set up for what you want to happen after conference. You have to be getting set up for that now, or it's simply not going to happen. And so, you have to be focusing and getting your game plan together, because it's going to come really quickly. And it's the people who work through these months where everybody's, vacationing and holiday and, all of that. It's the people who stick it out through these months who see the big harvest at conference season. And then again, Mark with rolling out this new product line, and he's rolling out basically the whole thing before conference. The boom is really now. And so don't blink and miss it. Make sure that you're really focused and that you're putting in the energy that you need to be putting in. So just make sure that you are on your game. You know, pay attention to how you're spending your time, pay attention to the trainings that are going on and soak them up, pay attention to your self-development time, making sure that's happening, reach out, stay consistent with adding to your network. There's nothing worse than a big promotion being announced and running out of people to talk to because you weren't growing your network all along, and things like that. So I guess it's just, if there's anything I can say to you guys, it's stay awake, keep working, don't go to sleep, and, you know, expect to be able to pick things back up where you left off, but continue to push hard and harder and harder and reach your goals and be where you want to be and dream really, really big right now, because so much can happen. My first year in the business, I was making, let's see, in my November, December, I was making probably between $2,000 to $3,000 a month. And then in February, I made almost $10,000. And then in March, we made, I'm trying to remember. I don't really remember. It was like $15,000, and by May we were making $20,000. And so that is what that season can do for your business. But the reason that season did that for my business was because I was working so consistently throughout, you know, those months when I wasn't seeing those huge paychecks yet. And so really hold on to that and remember that if your paycheck, and then also, so just to put it even into bigger perspective, is that in July, my paycheck was $63. And by less than a year later, I was making just under $20,000, less than a year later, like 11 months, 10 months later, 10 months later. So think about what your paycheck is today and think about if it could grow by $20,000 in 10 months. Would you consider that worth working your butt off?
That like gives me chills. Like that's like so amazing. Like that you just did it. Like you've had your head down from day one. Like no excuses, nothing. And I just am so glad that you got on and like you could pour into us. Like I felt like we were really like missing, like really just getting like our leaders again talking to us. So I'm so glad you did that.
Well, thank you for having me and asking me.
Well, thanks for sharing. And we'll post the recording underneath it in case anybody missed it. But thank you, Claire, so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Bye, guys.
Bye.